Lee stepped out from under the parasol walkway as the driver, the same man he'd seen everywhere, held the rear door of the taxi open.
Good evening, Mr. Lee. How is business at the firm?
Ticking over, Lee said, and thought again of time. He definitely had less than an hour now. He didn't know why or how he knew this for certain, but he did. The car was heavy and stylish, with headlights that stuck out like insect antennas. It was a lunging and magnificent antique, but it smelled like it just rolled out from the factory. The rear compartment was spacious, and the seats were of real leather. The driver tipped his hat, came around to the front, and squeezed a giant rubber horn as they drifted into the night. Lee leaned back into the corner as the oil lanterns draping over the street, smeared by recent rain, glowed on his right cheek. He lit a cigarette and took out the ashtray from the rear door compartment. When did cabs in the city get to be this kind of quality? This was a real motor. With a choke of gas that brought heavy fumes by the rear window, they began chugging more quickly down the street. Lee took a few drags on the cigarette and appreciated the soft material of the seat. He was starting to feel normal. Maybe something of his mind was coming back. He still couldn't remember a thing from the night before, or anything before that, but it didn't seem to matter. He felt steady. Things would come back to him, surely. He had at least a couple of clients, enough money for a few weeks. He knew where he was working tonight, and that was enough for now. He felt a jolt of shock so sudden that he dropped his cigarette. Some kind of vehicle, some motorized bicycle but impossibly fast, shot by the window. A streak of light followed it. Police lights spanned from two more vehicles that looked like bullets on wheels. What was that? Lee asked the driver, fumbling for a cigarette on the floor.
I wouldn't worry, sir. It's all scheduled. Nothing to trouble the administrators about.
What do you mean? I mean, what was that thing? That bike?
Just a chase scenario, it looked like, sir. Perhaps they robbed one of the construct banks? The shootout will be in an abandoned factory or warehouse, possibly at the top of a crane. Nothing to trouble yourself with, sir.
I don't, understand. How do you know how it's gonna go down?
It's all scheduled, sir. The police are constructs. The guests are simply enjoying a planned night out. Did you miss the beef inn this morning, or were you unable to access it from your room?
Must have missed it, Lee said quietly. He leaned closer to the window and saw that every house on the street was different, completely different. There were stately homes of sweeping rooftops and smoldering chimneys, next to crystal-shaped towers of illuminated peaks. A group was playing tennis on a perfect pitch that took up the entirety of their front yard. What looked like a miniature sun was floating above the pitch, lighting up just the grass, as though it were noon in high summer. Another vehicle jolted past. This was actually floating above the ground. From their rear exhaust came a blast of blue fire. Lee moved back from the window, his heart rate quickening, his head starting to ache. Fumbling, he lit another cigarette to steady himself. What kind of town was this?
What's your name? He asked the driver. Daedalus, sir. Us all hosts.
You mean your whole family? You got quite a crew down here.
Thousands of us, sir. Always there if needed.
Daedalus, what's the story with this town? Lee asked, breathing deeply, trying to slow his heart rate. They passed what looked like a giant church, but through the stained glass windows he thought he saw a riotous orgy to a pounding of music so brutal it shook the exterior walls. Next to it was a library shaped in columns of jutting carven stone, with gargoyles leaning over the edge, their tongues seeming to flicker and move. On the balcony, people dressed in gowns were smoking pipes on floating hammocks, flicking through piles of books beside them. A glimmer of what looked like a falling star cut overhead, but it was coming down like an asteroid onto the road in front of them.
Daedalus, you want to keep us away from that? Lee said. All on schedule, sir. They are returning from an interstellar expedition to landing pad is on Horizon Boulevard.
The gleaming rocket came down and lit up 100 kinds of architecture, and as many groups of people dressed as if they'd just escaped a circus. Halloween tonight or something? Lee asked.
Yes, as it is every night, sir. Halloween is being held at the Statesman Hotel tonight, though I should inform you attendance is already full. There was only space for 100 guests of various forms, and they already have another private detective. I've been told the zombies will be arriving at 11 p.m. sharp. Everyone in the hotel left alive by 12 will receive a place in the grand finale. Quite an evening by the sounds of things, so I should also inform you, as you are interested in special events, that the Spring Festival Dragon Watching and the Christmas Gala are full, but the Thanksgiving Hunt still has some places available.
What are they doing?
I believe it is another battle between the pilgrims and the natives, sir. Historical weapons only, naturally. My money is on the natives. They had quite a showing last year, and with only bows too, sir. Would you like me to put in an application? Rifle or bow training is included.
I'll skip that one.
No problem at all, sir. We have arrived at the Blue Moon Brewery.
How much I owe you?
Let's call it $5 for a regular.
Lee took out the billfold, leaned into the front of the taxi and passed him a 5. As soon as he did, another $5 bill appeared, instantly, in just the same location at the top of the fold.
Sorry, not sure what happened there,
Lee said, and slid him another 5. Another bill replaced it.
You have an infinite cash package, sir. It will replenish indefinitely.
Oh, okay, Lee said, stunned, trying to act normal.
As I said, 5 will do, sir,
the driver said, and handed him back the extra bill. Daedalus doffed his hat and got out to open the rear door for him. As soon as he did, another vehicle, this one like a spaceship, pulled up, floating behind them. A few men dressed in suits like astronauts with glowing rifles looked Lee over. They rocketed up into the sky on jetpacks. Lee watched them land on the entranceway of a hotel in the sky, rotating like a planet, a vibrant display glittering from it like a disco ball. In front of him, at street level, lanterns dangled from the Blue Moon Brewery. A narrow, dingy entrance led down a flight of stairs stained by trash and vomit. A single host with the same face, the same Daedalus, watched him through half-closed eyes. The glowing sign above the door buzzed and flickered, oozing fractured neon into the dark.
Good evening, Mr. Lee, the host said. Your table is ready. Number 33, your favorite. Minnie is on tonight.
Thanks, Lee said, finally feeling some sense of familiarity. This bar didn't strike him as strange. The name, the table number, even the feel of the clotted evening in this corrupt, dingy part of town felt right. He pushed back the door to the bar under the gaze of 2 heavies dressed in black suits and purple ties. There were 20 or so tables in the dark, the carpet stained, thick and soft. A band was warming up on the stage. The lighting was austere, deep purple, smoke-clotted everything. There was a game of cards being carried on by men in zoot suits in the corner, a roulette wheel by the stage. He felt the rumble of an L train pass overhead. He saw his table card glinting in silver, number 33. He lit a smoke, and just as Minnie came onto the stage, he must have seen her before. He must have, from everything that had happened. But as he saw her walk out, he felt that initial, striking pang of attraction that can only be played out once. She looked about 25, pale, large sad eyes and hair that glowed with silver light. It actually glowed, he realized. It was not a trick of the light. Her hair was lumescent. She was dressed all in black, with an air of class and consideration. She smoked quickly, almost as if she felt guilty about it. The band started gently without the drums. Minnie sang in a husky, sultry way that had him enraptured from the start. She had a distant look as she gazed through the creeping smog of cigarette smoke and rising sound of banter, secret deals, illicit gatherings, and the half-hidden creatures of the night. She caught Lee's eyes, and he knew they had slept together. But where was the clear memory of it? Why did he have so many instincts, but no memories? And even more strangely, why did this not trouble him more? He realized then that he didn't even know when and where he was born. Just as the feeling of uncertainty was returning, he noticed Minnie look to the door with trepidation. The sound of gambling, the chits and the dice softened. The bartender froze with a towel still half pressed into a glass. Slim's here, Lee heard one of the revelers at the bar say, and stepped down from the stool and make his way out the bar without looking up. The man who had entered was huge. He had gold teeth and a scar across his neck where it had been slit. He had a cigar the size of a flashlight in his mouth and a beautiful girl dangling from his arm. The bar was overcome with tension as the entrance of this man was made clear. As the giant exhausted a wheeze of his cigar, he ushered the girl with him along to another table and went over to the bar, looking around him. A host came to take his coat. Just as the man put out his hand, the bartender slid a large glass of whiskey silently into his grasp. This was Illinois Slim. The man Lee was supposed to shake down? Not likely. Not tonight. Not a chance. Lee looked back to Minnie, who was singing about love and loss and life and everything and nothing. Her song ended. The band started to play jazz and the rhythm of the bar recovered. Illinois Slim downed his drink and took another cocktail for the woman. As he walked through the bar, everyone seemed to move slightly aside or look away. Lee glanced over at Slim. Slim looked over at Lee. Lee felt a shock of recognition. Not some cryptic mixture of longing and regret that he and Minnie had shared, but pure hostility. Slim stood and started walking over to him. Lee felt for the revolver in his holster. He kept his face straight. He signaled for the bartender and put up 2 fingers for a double. You got some nerve showing your face in here again, Slick, Slim said. Some kind of wise guy, eh?
I get around, Lee said.
Yeah, like a grease weasel,
Slim said and leaned over him. Although Lee felt he was trembling, he tried to stay cool.
I know you got a finger on that trigger under the table, and if you think you're slick enough, you just go ahead and pull it,
Slim said.
But I've had bigger cannons than yours try to break this castle. Oi!
Slim shouted to the bartender.
Bring me and Valentino something over here with a kick like a mare, eh?
Minnie swung into another sultry chorus as Slim squeezed himself onto the chair opposite Lee.
Word around town is you're here to collect,
Slim said.
Thought you might be here sniffing after Minnie again. You're all washed up, Valentino. End of the road.
You gonna bury me tonight? Lee asked.
Show me the shovel, bring out that hand cannon of yours, and just give me a reason.
The bartender watched them both cautiously as he placed 2 thick glasses of whiskey on the table. With the sudden ringing of a gong, Minnie's song ended, and there was the patter of soft applause. Lee looked over. She saw him, then Slim, then looked down and adjusted her dress.
She was always out of your league, Valentino,
Slim said.
And I don't like my songbirds flying free. Voices ain't never quite the same.
Then don't put them in cages, Lee said. Heart wants what the heart wants, I guess.
Yeah, and what do you think my heart wants?
Mine on a platter?
That'd be a start.
Slim lit his cigar again and blew the smoke in Lee's face.
So, you gonna make a move? Or are we gonna sit here all night necking?
The gong was struck to announce the next number. The gong.
He had to find Gong. The gong was ringing. Who was Gong? What are you thinking about, wise ass?
Slim asked. Lee closed his eyes for a moment. He took out his billfold, flicked past the $5 and passed Slim a 20. Another 20 appeared as soon as he did.
Ain't gonna take no payoff, Slick, Slim said. I don't need a client. The client is a ruse,
Lee said quietly.
Where were you yesterday?
He asked Slim.
I don't know, but I can tell you where you're gonna be by the end of tonight. How about that?
You don't know, do you? For the first time, something in Slim's expression changed. He reared his giant head back. His absurdly humongous shoulders and neck muscles moved up and down as he thought for a moment.
Big blowout, I guess,
Slim said. Oh yeah? What about last week? Slim started to roll his tongue inside his mouth.
What are you getting at, Slick? You spiked my drink.
The gong was struck one more time, and this time Minnie started with the chorus. She hit the high note and the resonance matched with the high-pitched ringing of the brass. And Lee knew that this was Gong, Detective Gong. This wasn't about Slim. There was no Illinois Slim.
Who's Gong?
Lee asked.
What?
Slim said, his reptilian eyes flicking like a predator.
What you say? Who's Gong? Detective Gong.
Slim leaned back in his chair, his face awash with doubt.
I'm...
he whispered, and looked as if he was about to be sick.
I'm Gong.
Who am I? Lee asked, aren't we?
Aren't I?
We're in some dream, vision, some trip or something.
I'm Gong,
Gong whispered. He stood up, wide-eyed, and looked as if he was about to pass out. Get that drink down you, Lee said.
We're working here, that's it. We're
here for some reason together. We were meant to find each other. You got some message or something, telling you to look for me, didn't you? Someone named Harris Jeeves told you or something. Gong sat back down and took a deep slug of his drink.
Yeah, sure. One of my heavies gave me the word. Warned me you'd be here looking for me.
We're in something together here. We're working. Meant to be finding someone or something, but they wiped our minds. We only have an hour.
Got to remember who I am.
Gong said. We got to find a big man, a
big fish, a man on the hill or something, a politician or a king.
We've got to get out of here, Lee said. Somewhere private, somewhere we can talk and figure out what's going on. This place is watching us. I can feel it. He leaned closer to Gong, so close he could smell his breath, the whiskey and the smoke. The hosts aren't on our side, Lee said, but they do talk if you ask them. We've got to be careful. We've got to get information without them knowing we're getting information, if you know what I mean.
We can't just clear out of here like old pals, Gong said. Wouldn't look right. We've got to have a scuffle. Call it like men.
Slap me.
Slap you?
Alright, come on. A backhand, not like a full punch or anything, just like it's a I'm the boss slap. Then call your girlfriend over and yank me out so we can leave together. That's fitting, isn't it? That's how this place works. Gong struck Lee hard with the back of his hand. The world flashed in bright light and stinging pain. The bar paused. Lee fell out of his chair from the impact. He didn't even have to ham it up.
You get the message now, Valentino? Gong shouted. Lee held his cheek and tried to lift himself up from the ground, still reeling from the impact. Gong flicked his fingers and signaled for his girlfriend to come over. She sipped at her cocktail and waited diligently in Gong's shadow. Lee noticed her eyes were purple. They weren't human. They were constructs or hosts or some other creation of this place. They weren't real. How much of this was real? What did that even mean? His head started to throb with pain. Help him up. Night's still young. Be a friend to him, will you? Gong said to the girl. Lee let himself be helped up by her and looked suitably shamed and embarrassed as he followed Gong from the bar. But just as they walked outside and Lee was about to summon a cab, the world disappeared.